welcome back. We're here with Investors Corner, and we thought we could do something like original, or we could do what everybody else is doing and talk about the Morphy Auction, and we're talking about the Morphy Auction. So, but we're a lot of people are talking about it. They either didn't go or participated online, or they went and didn't actually participate. Ross and I were both there. We both overspent on a whole bunch of things, and we have a lot of perspective to share about.
I got good deals, man. What are you talking about overspend? I got good deals.
I paid twice market on a couple of things, but I'm happy with what I got.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my first impressions with the auction was the auction house was outstanding. The way they had things displayed, Ross, I mean, do you agree? It was definitely like really, glass cases. Everything was in acrylic cases, and there were people there that could show you the items, pull them out. Neither you nor I took advantage of that, and I think we got stung on a couple of things.
Yeah, I mean, Denver, Pennsylvania, right? It was the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. I was not expecting a lot from this auction house. Apparently, they're a big name. I didn't know them though, but I was really impressed, as you said. Big, beautiful museum cases, really well put together auction. The actual auction room that you're in, there was all like stadium,
Theater seats.
Yeah. Just really well done, professional, big, huge screens when they're doing it. And just being at a live auction, I've done eBay or, the Hakes auctions, things like that, online auctions. It was really cool being in person. I loved it. So my impression on the auction, above all else, for folks that are familiar with it, and even if you weren't, there was 400 or more, like maybe 400, something like that, ungraded, really great condition vintage Star Wars action figures. Like I don't think you'll ever again see that many ungraded Star Wars action figures in the same auction at the same time ever again.
And uncirculated.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really stood about this auction, and we can go into some of the prices because I did take some notes on them, but one of the things that really, really stood out was the clear bubble Return of the Jedi stuff. Because you can have my entire Return of the Jedi collection, all 80s or better, all unpunched, no price stickers, but I'd say more than half of them have very, very, very yellow bubbles. And when you see a Return of the Jedi figure with a clear bubble, the dang thing like sings to you because you just never see it.
I actually got the clearest bubble Klaatu skiff maybe that exists at that auction. No, yeah. It was pretty clear, but with a little tinge of yellow. But just for whatever reason, an impossible figure to find clear. But again, very, very unique to have an opportunity to see that many ungraded figures. And CES, your favorite grading company, was set up there, and we took submissions, which was pretty neat.
And more importantly, we're documenting it on the label.
Yeah.
Which, because some of these items, and we're going to get into it here in a minute, but some of these items sold more raw than they sell for graded. Because I think people wanted to be a part of this experience. To say they own something, part of this, I don't know if you want to call it a find, but ultimately, there was a guy that had 400 carded figures that he's had for 40 plus years that were uncirculated and were in exceptional condition. And, the prices reflect the fact that people were really caught up in the fact that this was a very unique situation.
Six DT Lukes carded.
Right? 5, yeah.
5? Who's counting? Chris is counting, apparently.
Yeah.
How many Boba Fetts?
I think there was like 7.
He's got notes. Look at this guy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Look at this guy.
6. Yeah. 8.
Hey Chris, I thought you said Ross bought all the Boba Fetts, but he only got 4 of them.
Exactly.
Well, he only got 4. He didn't let the ones that were punched. He's like, it's crap. It's crap. Yeah, I don't care.
But they were all going for like 14,000, 15,000. That was a lot of money for an ungraded Fett that could be a 75.
It could be, But the thing is, I think that any of those that show up at CAS, and Brian, if you're doing labels, we actually are putting on the labels for them by request, 2023 Morphy's auction, because this was sort of from a Star Wars standpoint a very monumentous occasion. So
yeah,
I definitely like the idea of labeling that so it can, it came from that auction. It going to add a little bit of value to that, additionally value.
Right. Well, PSA did that with Dimitri Young's collections. Every now and again, you'll see, from the Dimitri Young collection. Dimitri Young was a former Major League Baseball player and a really big collector, and he sold off some of his collection.
Twins? Am I right with that? Twins? He played for the Twins?
The Tigers for a little bit, I think. Yeah, right. I don't know.
All right.
So it shows that's how little we know. Anyways, move on to the investor side of all this. So like I said, I do have some notes. So 12 back. So one of the things that we noticed about the auction is things started off high, and then there was a lot of the exact same thing. So my impression was it would start off high, and then as people got theirs, they would drop off, and things would drop. The prices would drop, and exactly the opposite would happen. So items that sold at the beginning actually sold for a little bit less than things that sold at the start. So for example, there was a little bit of ebb and flow, but the very, very first thing in the auction was a 12-back layout, was unpunched, sold for $29.52, which is about $1,000 more than an 80 graded one, right? But the second to the last one, one thing that I did notice that punched versus unpunched had a very, very big difference. And for the few that were circulated, if it had a price sticker, that significantly changed the value. But so, the first layout sold for $2,952, and the last unpunched one sold for $1,000 more. So $39.36. It just is an idea that people were getting desperate towards the end and wanted to own a piece of these things, and that's the price that's a price shift for Leia.
And despite being in shipping cases with this guy for years, there was no CES 100s. I'll tell you that. There was no CES 100s, right?
So
I mean, you just see even those Leias. I looked at all the descriptions as they went through the auctions. I looked at a lot of those Leias. I wanted to win a Leia because I needed an upgrade for mine, but the prices were just crazy. But I don't think the condition was that great. 75s, 80s.
Yeah, there may be some 85s, but
maybe.
But there was a range, and sometimes
and you're taking a chance. You're taking a chance,
right? And I guess one of the early things that went too, and I will call it the Julius Caesar moment of the day. So my whole time when I went there, I wanted to upgrade my snaggletooth, right? So I wanted a nice 21-back snaggletooth, and I figured I'll get in early, right? I'll just get the first one, and the first one comes up, and I go to bid, and Ross bids. I'm like, really?
I got a great deal on that.
Yeah. He got the cheapest one.
I got the cheapest one.
So
they paid $900 against each other.
Yeah.
That is so special.
So just so you know, that one after buyer's premium sold for $1,169. Still a lot for a snaggletooth.
It's not. Yeah, it was a little expensive. Yeah.
But towards the end, the last two sold for $1,722. $600 difference. So, Ross screwed me, which that we would expect nothing else, right?
Well, interestingly, I went into the auction not expecting to bid at all, except to bid you up. I wanted to make sure to find out which items he wanted, just so I could bid you up.
Yeah, so when I say Ross is mean and people are like, oh, come on, give him a chance. No, he literally targeted me.
I did.
And I didn't end up with a snaggletooth.
Hey, Chris, Ross has a snaggletooth available for sale if you want to buy it,
Interesting. Yeah, I'm
Actually, I upgraded. I have a 6570 condition one. If you want to, I'll send it your way. No, you said you have one, right?
Yeah, I have one. I wanted an upgrade. Mine's a yellow bubble. So
the yellow bubble on a 21-back snag.
Yeah,
right?
Interesting. Yeah,
it's tough to find. Well, speaking of yellow bubbles, we should talk about that yellow bubble DT loop.
Yeah, so that was very interesting. So there were 5 double telescoping loops, right? And the prices range from a low, which was a punched. They were all 12Cs. A punch one, the low was $27,060, right? And then
that's all in, including buyer's premium?
That's all in, including. And then you had 3 of them that sold all for the same price, which is $31,980. So I think that was probably almost like a pre-bid sort of thing, right? And then we had one, which had a slightly yellow bubble, and I didn't take it out to take a look at it, but the tip was not sticking out of the saber itself. And Chuck Lang, Chuck Lang, who did all of the descriptions, said that he thinks it was missing the filament altogether. and we couldn't tell one way or the other. But that one ended up selling for $41,820. So it was punched and had no tip. And I sort of wonder if whoever bought it because it was a factory error without the filament.
It has to be why. It has to be why. I mean, the yellow bubble certainly would turn me off, everything else being equal. But, for that to be the highest value one, and I was close when there was a bunch of people. The woman, one of the women working there, pulled it out of the case, and there was a bunch of people, nerds collecting, like looking underneath it and around. Like see like a collection of nerds like descending on this carded figure, like, oh, where's the filament, right? Like trying to look down at it, we couldn't see it. So I think that might be it.
So one thing that actually I bid on and stopped. And we still really, the verdict's still kind of out on this one that went for, I mean, still double what it would normally go for. But we had a power droid that wasn't labeled as such, but was the short V version. And it ended up selling for $1,600. But it wasn't labeled as that. And it's kind of one of the hot variations that are out right now. So I thought that was kind of an interesting sell. And all the rest of them were there was like 9 power droids, and all the rest of them were the regular style, but it had one carded short V1. Another interesting thing was, and I've mentioned this, I've talked about this for a while, and people kind of hemmed and hawed whether this really exists, but they had an entire case of Yodas. Sold it as an entire case of Yodas.
Oh, yeah.
So 24 uncirculated. Most were unpunched. There were a couple of punches that actually were with the case itself. So you had the case, and you had 24 Yodas. And I hope we're not actually asked to encase that, because that's going to be one huge.
I was going to say, Lee's going to have to encase that. He's going to have to do all 24 Yodas and the box, and it's going to be a ginormous case.
I mean, that would take up... Well, think about it. So 24, what do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Oh, look, Dr. Star Wars with his...
So 20 in a row back here for people that, and, so you're probably looking, if you go 6 and 4, that is a good chunk of a wall.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do or display that, But that ended up selling, and really not that bad. So $22,140, which is less than $1,000 a Yoda.
Were they 32 backs?
Yeah, all 32 backs. Yeah. Mostly unpunched, but so less than $1,000 a piece, which, I mean, if there were some 85, 90s, 85s are well over 1,000. 90s, probably $3,000 for something like that. So, but I would imagine whoever bought it's going to keep it the same. But I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Who knows? I would think that's a flip, honestly. Yeah, I don't know.
You would think it's a flip.
No, but I'm saying that's a lot of money to spend on. I mean, someone's got to have a lot of money to keep that together.
Yeah.
But you can see someone investing that money to then flip it.
Yeah.
And probably keep a few or whatever, one, keep the box.
Ironically, the original seller for all this, the guy that submitted it, actually wanted everything sold that way. So he wanted all the Lukes to be sold in one lot, all the Boba Fett's to be sold in one lot, and a lot of people were thinking, well, how do we pool our money together and get some of that?
It's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
wow.
that was the original concept. So then we had the Boba Fett's, right? The Boba Fett's ranged from $14,760 and it went up to $21,900. The last one that sold. So again, these prices started to bid. What was very interesting is the unpunched ones. Most of them sold for the exact same price, which was $15,990. You had 1, 2, 3, 4 of them sell for that price, and the unpunched ones all went for $14,760.
Dude, I remember when I first started collecting. The first real big expenditure I had was on a Boba Fett. I think I paid $3,500 or $4,000 for a graded 80, and I thought it was a tremendous amount of money. And it is. Like $4,000 is a lot of money to spend on an action figure, right? But like $20,000, dude, crazy, ungraded.
I had one back in the day, 1994, I mean, didn't have a lot of money back then, and I paid $900 for it.
Wow.
Unpunched, it was beautiful. So yeah, that same thing now is $14,000 or up to $21,000. Outstanding. But again, so you're looking at you had again what would I say 7 of them at like $15,000 a piece. Like almost $100,000 in Boba Fett just alone, all in one collection, all from this auction. So,
did they have the total for the entire auction, like what the end was?
So he didn't say. What he did say is that there was a woman there who was actually the daughter of the guy that owned all these, and when they originally had talked to him about it, they were hoping to get $40,000 out of the whole collection.
Wow.
So, and talking to really, I think it's one of Dan's partners, a pop culture guy. He said, he goes, I was taking these out, and it was really, really cool to see them. And I asked him, I said, well, did you know the significance of what you had? Did you recognize that the Lukes were double telescoping? And he's like, I had no idea what that was. So it was nice that Chuck reached out, and that the community kind of said, look, I mean, yes, we all want a deal, but no, we're not going to let these things pretend like these things are something that they're not, So what else do I want to talk about? So another thing that, I had mentioned before is something that you don't see very often are clear bubble Jedi figures. And Ross, you bought some of those. I bought some of them. It's just unusual to see. So one of the highlights of that, there was a Reese, a Prune Face, a Lando Skiff, an 88, and a Leia Bush and a Bib Fortuna went for $2,460, which, you look at some of those figures raw are usually like $100 figures. And so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, looking at like 4 times what they would sell for retail raw because of the clear bubbles.
Yeah, I think the days of the $100 figure for those figures is probably a few years back, right? Like everything has gone up. Even like a yellow bubble Bib Fortuna, I could see $200, right?
So I have a UKG 80 Tebow, right? That I cannot give away for $200. Unpunched. It's crazy.
Well, it's Ewoks, man. No one wants the Ewoks.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, so some of these raw figures still sell that cheap, and to see these prices go, or we had a Luke Jedi, Leia Poncho, and Nick going 88, so 4 figures sold for $1,722, so over $400 a piece. With the Luke Jedi,
who was the underbidder on that?
That was you. You were pushing.
It was a really clear Luke Jedi, which is hard to find.
You never see them.
Really
hard
to find.
Never see them, and that's where you get those prices on that sort of stuff. It was just pretty unbelievable. But really, in terms of like just the sheer, Ross uses the term bananas for numbers, were the 12 backs. So and I'll just Darth Vader had a high of 4,290. And a low of 3,444. That was for a punched example, right? Then, later on in the auction, there was an AFA 80 Plus. An AFA 80 Plus sold for like $2,706. So, it just tells you, whether it be speculation or just people wanted a slice of this action. So, there were 3 non-double telescoping Lukes. And the low one was the first one, sold for $4,428. So about double what an 80 would sell for. The high one sold for $8,610.
Wow.
Now, and Ross, you can kind of speak to this. I mean, you don't have to necessarily give the number, but you bought an ink-touched double telescoping Luke.
For less.
Less
than that. For less than that. Yeah.
So if it gives you just some perspective of how much things were going for at this auction. Another one that stood out as a head scratcher. So, the first Chewbacca, which was punched, 12 back, sold for $1,478. Bit much for a Chewbacca, but he had a high of $4,920 for a Chewbacca, which really, I would say, is like one of the lower tier 12 backs.
I would agree with that.
Sold for. Again, you're probably looking at a raw one is $1,000, $1,200. You look and this sold for really almost $5,000. So I mean, just the story of the 12 backs. We had an AFA 75 R2 sold for $15.99, and you had a raw one sold for $41.82. You had a AFA 85 Stormtrooper sold for $3,400, but you had a raw one sold for $4,920.
And you had the opportunity to like go and look at these raw cards like up front ahead of time. You can go to the case and see them, hold them, and get an idea of what condition they were in.
So
you get an up close look at them.
Yeah, and I didn't. Neither Ross or I did a really good job of taking advantage of this because we really probably should.
Chris didn't. I did.
Not surprising.
Did you? Because some of the stuff you bought makes me wonder why you.
Well, you know what it is. I looked at certain other things, but what I ended up bidding on was not the items I looked at. Yeah. So maybe I did do a bad job. Maybe you were right. I did do a bad job.
Where I got I bought a Greedo, which is very likely going to get an 85. It is outstanding, right? But I bought a Walrus.
Hint, Brian. 85.
Well,
you're right. But you know what's good for you, Brian.
I'm thinking what's good for you. 60.
Well, that's a really quick segue though, Brian. One of the things about CIS is that we took in probably 100 pieces from this auction, and when they get to you, you don't know whose is whose.
No.
Except the really nice Greedos, Chris's.
But there were a couple that were submitted. But so people that wonder, if we do get preferential treatment, Brian, that's one thing you can speak to, right? There are no names on these things when they come to you.
Correct. Yeah, we just get the figures and the order number, and that's it.
Yeah,
but if you see a really nice Greedo, give it a 70. Wow. Any really nice Greedo.
And Snaggletooth. And Snaggletooth,
Return it as altered.
Yeah.
Rejected.
Even worse.
Rejected. Cut the corner and be like, oh, it's trimmed. It's trimmed.
But I bid on a Walrus Man that looked really good in the pictures, and when I got it in person, it's probably a 75. The description was, that it came from the find and that it was in good condition. It was punched. I knew it was punched. But I probably overbid on that one in that case, and it's like, kind of a.
What about the lot? So I bought a lot. Again, this just shows you that there's value in grading, right? I bought a lot, and in there was an AT-AT Commander carded, and like the back had separated from the front, right? Like half the back was like hanging off, and I don't recall that being in the description. Had that been graded, there's no, it would have been like a 20 or 30 or whatever, right?
Yeah,
I would have never bought it. Bought it.
So yeah, it definitely shows, definitely that, somebody can call something mint, but mint is in the eye of the beholder, so to speak. So I ended up buying that. I bought a Greedo, a Walrus Man, and then a 5-pack of Jedi figures because it was a reuse that I really, really wanted. And I'm gonna get I'm excited to get the Morphe's label on it, and Ross. So this is how it goes. So not only did Ross show me up by bidding on my Snaggletooth, right?
Sure did.
But then they would go and you could pay for them and they would pick the stuff out. And I had 7 figures and I'm proud of myself and I rolled the card up to the table and I'm starting to submit. And Ross comes in with friggin' out of 500 figures, like, move aside. It's like, so, just made
I'm counting right now. 17 figures. Yeah. I got 17 figures, but a lot of them are lots. The lots are where the deals were.
Yeah.
Right. A few of my purchases were individual ones. The lots were all like, get them, upgrade some, maybe sell one down the road.
But yeah, that was the auction. I had a great time. Ross, you had a good time. The book is going to be something I'm going to keep forever. Got a little bit dinged up in the airport, but really, 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 really excited about it. Can't wait to get my pieces back. And if we actually are back to doing this podcast semi-regularly, it should be back in about 30 days. So I should be back in time for our next podcast.
Nice.
Brian.
That book's famous, right? That's in the picture that you posted from the airport, right?
What's that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I had it with me. I took a picture at the,
So you should get that book graded too.
Well, so it got kind of dinged up, so it's probably probably a 75 at this point in time. You know, but
it's still a piece of history.
It truly is. And again, why we're putting this stuff on the labels, because there are certain things, there are certain auctions that that really have cemented the market, and this is one that that was really cool. So
Lee's gonna kill me, but I think it'd be cool to put that book next to one of the figures you got as a whole, piece of the auction.
That would be cool. That would be
kind of cool. I do have the Jedi figures. There are a few that were that I didn't necessarily need, and to have that would be interesting. Yeah.
Cool display, but I didn't tell you to do it because Lee would yell at me. So.
Well, especially the book's heavy, it's going to be extra reinforced. So it's not only would Lee be mad, but Ken would be like, "Really?" And to make extra thick clips. And,
it's a heavy book. It's a heavy book.
Yeah.
I think Lee would yell at you regardless of what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lee caught on to the pick on Chris thing really early. So, whereas it took you like a good chunk of a podcast, Lee kind of just slid right in. So yeah.
I mean, I was told to pick on you from day one. I thought you were a nice guy. So
yeah, it turns out nice guys finish last. So
he's a good sport. He really is a good sport.
Good whipping boy. So. Well, cool. Look, we kept this one under. This one's going to be probably under 40 minutes by the time we wrap it up.
Yeah, doing great.
Look at that! Look at that! People would actually stay for the whole thing this time. So, well, cool. Does anybody have any final thoughts you want to say before we close this up?
You mean on my 2 cents?
Come on, Chris, you don't know the names of the segments? You forgot them? Come on.
Yeah, it's been a little while since we've had the podcast.
It's been a while,
so.
and I'm old.
I think I figured out what I want to say for my 2 cents.
Sure.
All right.
So my 2 cents is I'm really glad that Ross got that snaggletooth and Chris did.
Balls.
Nice. I am too. I like your 2 cents.
my 2 cents on top of your 2 cents is I don't like Ross. I like Ross less now.
Guys, I will say, I looked it up while you guys were talking. Dimitri Young, right? Started out his career at St. Louis, 2 years, 5 years in Cincinnati, Detroit for 6 years, and ended his career as a Washington National. So there you go.
Not the Twins.
Right.
Not the Twins.
I knew he played for the Tigers for a little bit.
Little follow-up for you.
There you go.
That's my 2 cents. So.
There it is.
Cool. All right, folks. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening. I hope you made it through the entire podcast. Remember, you can find us on YouTube and Podbeam and app. Was it?
Yeah, so you can find us everywhere, Chris.
All the
social media wise, we're on all major social media platforms, right? Instagram handle has changed to CAS grading.
Ooh,
but
catchy.
Otherwise,
that's catchy. I like it.
I think we were trying to follow in the steps of PSA. Isn't PSA grading or PSA card grade or something like that is their handle? But Twitter, we're now on TikTok,
all over the place.
Facebook, obviously, but yeah, if you we are on all major podcasting platforms. Just look up Passion for Collecting, and please follow, subscribe. It helps the podcast out.
Look at that.
Find us.
Show the goods. Hold on, we're on TikTok.
That was a free show.
Okay. All right. Well, so thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking around. Until next time, keep collecting.